Hey, Kyle here from Social Creators. In this video, I want to share with you how you can actually simultaneously compare the outputs of different AI models. So you can compare what ChatGPT says versus what Gemini says, or DeepSeek, or Grok. You can also add in hundreds of other models, Claude, etc. So this is really good for clear thinking because each of these models is trained on different biases, different training data, and each company has a different corporate philosophy. So you want to kind of explore the differences in these models. And in many cases, people find the model they use the most, that they like the best. But I want to make an argument here that this tool Multi, by comparing the different tools, allows you to see the biases better and actually get better outputs. And you can use this for creating your own content, doing your own learning, using AI as your kind of thinking co-pilot, as most people I think use today. But you can do it with this model here that combines the different models in a way that doesn't reinforce specific biases as much. Because the more you see different ways of thinking, especially around controversial or difficult problems that don't have clear answers, the more you can become nuanced and creative in your thinking, and the more you can question your assumptions, your biases, and have more clear reason. So I want to share with you an easy prompt here that actually shows you the differences in the kind of brands of these different models and how they output. So I wrote a prompt here that basically creates a quick list of unique biases, values, and differences between this AI model, so asking each AI model specifically, and other popular LLMs like Claude, ChatGPT, Grok, and Gemini. I want to include a compelling hook. So let's say I want to use this as content for my newsletter or for my website or for a video. I want to have a structure of how it outputs it that kind of grabs people. So the hook, the definition of the bias problem, why it's a big deal these days, how this specific model solves it or tries to solve it, and then why this matters for clear thinking. And then target it for my audience, creative, free-thinking entrepreneurs. So then the tone is professional but accessible and profound. Okay, so simple prompt kind of covers the kind of key things you need in a good prompt. And let's see what these different models do. So this tool runs very fast. Usually the first model it gets first, and then takes a little bit of time to kind of query the other models' APIs. But let's just take a look here. So ChatGPT lays out a hook. In a world flooded with voices claiming objectivity, true clarity is now the rarest currency. Entrepreneurs who think differently need AIs that don't just echo the consensus. They need one that questions it. So this is super important. Entrepreneurs have to think differently. They have to challenge their assumptions. You're wrong more than you're right. And if you're wrong for too long, you go to business, right? So having these models is super important as a reasoning tool to question your decisions in business especially, and look at risk analysis, that kind of thing. And you'll see how it blanked out. So sometimes the tool does that, but it always comes back. So the bias problem. Every language model is trained on oceans of human text, and therefore inherits human biases, political leanings, cultural assumptions, emotional shortcuts, and linguistic framing, right? Even doing this in English versus Spanish is going to be a different way of thinking. These invisible fingerprints can steer your thinking without your consent, pulling ideas towards statistical average instead of the bold, original insight that build real ventures. So if you just prompt AI with like generic one-liner prompts, you get like the average output. And that's what makes it bad, AI slop. But if you prompt it better, you can get much better responses and much better content, much better ideas. And as you see here, we can compare the different models too. So how this model approaches bias differently. So I'll just kind of summarize this. They say they do transparency first, contextual thinking, they balance dissent, user-centric calibration, intellectual modesty, right? But really what they want to do is not say Nazi stuff or like super communist stuff, right? That will, trigger people and, get bad media, right? That kind of thing. So it kind of is in the middle, right? And there's some biases on different platforms toward different sides of the, say, political spectrum or the social spectrum or economic spectrum. So core values behind its design: precision over persuasion, curiosity over conformity, evidence before motion, depth without dogma, dialogue not dominance. So why this matters for clear thinking. So Clear entrepreneurs make decisions that cut through noise. An AI that mirrors groupthink simply scales confusion. One that exposes underlying frames helps you spot blind spots faster, test assumptions deeper, and reason independently. This model's difference isn't louder output, it's quieter awareness. Wow. It doesn't tell you what to think, it keeps your lens clear so you can see the ideas they truly are. And that clarity lies the competitive edge every visionary founder seeks. So, boom. AI loves to speak in like big terms. So let's look at Gemini. So Gemini, whereas ChatGPT was like this nonprofit that became for profit, valued at $500 billion in some cases, I guess, depending on who you ask. Google, right, is a multi-trillion-dollar company, has dominated the internet for so long, has created a world brain with every book. It has the most training data by far. So for deep research, by far the best model. But because it's a big company, they have to be very careful what their AI says, because like the media is just waiting to jump on them for like something that's, like controversial, right? And they're kind of like the player that should win because they have the most money and the best researchers with deep think and all that. But they have this problem where they kind of have to be a little more politically correct. Their PR department kind of helps train their algorithms too. So the biggest risk for an innovator isn't creative failure, but a blind spot. Is your AI assistant creating one for you? Here's how this model differs from others. So they go after this universal bias problem. They have different design philosophy and why it matters for clear thinking. So again, they're kind of saying something similar. For a creative entrepreneur, this distinction is crucial. And that confirms what's popular limits your vision to the rear view mirror. So that's interesting because a lot of AI, isn't actually reasoning. It's just kind of putting text together in interesting ways that looks like reasoning. So in some cases, you really have to prompt it to get it to actually think properly, because it will often get lazy and just kind of tell you what's in the rearview mirror rather than remix things in interesting ways and actually think in a sense. A tool committed to neutrality, however, provides a clearer canvas. It respects your role as a primary thinker by delivering structured information without a pre-packaged perspective. It enables you to see novel connections, ask sharper questions, and make decisions with greater clarity. True disruption comes from an original signal, not a louder echo. This model is built to help you find yours. So, okay. So just seeing here, you see how obviously they're going to toot their own horn here. And then let's just look here at DeepSeek. So DeepSeek's, I think, interesting because it's open source. It's like more of the hacker ethos, way less money, way more constraints, and it's Chinese, right? And I think, the AI race is America versus China, East versus West, once again. And Chinese, we like to be told that they're so corrupt, but if you actually go to China, go to an American city and compare the two, you'd be shocked. It's like living in the future in China, and American cities like looked better 10 or 15 years ago, right? They're going downhill and by most metrics, whereas China's rising. So I think China might actually win the race because open source is a better technology. It's a better way of doing things, but it's not as good for like the debt-based capitalism of hyper-capitalism in America, maybe. So it's good to get the different perspective. And DeepSeek's really good with academic stuff, right? Like the Chinese really rely more on academic knowledge than like, say, questioning the system, like maybe Grok would do a lot more of. So here's a concise compilation here. Hook. Imagine AI as a mirror. Most reflect the creator's biases, clouding your vision. This model aims to be clear pane of glass. And you see fluff, over-restriction, brand agendas, right? Trained for brevity. And this why clear thinking wins with DeepSeek, it says. For innovators, biased AI is cognitive debt. The model delivers undistorted signals, critical when assessing market risk, evaluating conventional ideas, making swift decisions. So pretty cool. Pretty cool. Core differential, surgical, neutrality, optimized for decision velocity. So pretty interesting what they all say. And you can use this tool for free. I think that at some point you hit a usage limit, and then they want you to pay like less than you'd pay for the models individually, actually. And then when you pay, I think you can get more of the options. And there's lots of tools that can do this, but this one's a good one to get started with because it's like freemium and you can play around with it and you can kind of see differences. And you see here I have three different ways of thinking, different LLMs. But often just doing 2 is good. The 2 ones you kind of like the best. It kind of saves a bit of time. And you can do as many as like 5 or more if you want, but it can get a little confusing. But it's good to see in this example. Try it out. I'll link to a guide about how AI creates thinking biases and how to resist it if you want to go deeper and try this out. But yeah, this is pretty much navigating AI bias, a guide with multi here. So try it out for yourself, and yeah, it'll improve the way you think and the content you create.